Donald Trump just delivered one of his most savage diplomatic burns yet, and it was all caught on a hot microphone. During a high-stakes Gaza peace summit in Egypt, the president was overheard making a brutal jab at former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau while sharing a surprisingly friendly moment with Canada's new leader, Mark Carney. The exchange has sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles and social media alike, revealing just how dramatically the US-Canada relationship has shifted in recent months. To understand why this moment matters so much, we need to rewind to how we got here. Just months ago, Canada was in the midst of one of its most dramatic political upheavals in decades. Justin Trudeau, who had led the country for nearly 10 years, was facing a plummeting approval ratings and mounting pressure from his own party. The final straw came when Trump's aggressive tariff threats and his repeated suggestion that Canada should become America's 51st state created a perfect storm of economic and political crisis. Trudeau's handling of the escalating trade war with the United States became increasingly unpopular with Canadian voters. Trump had imposed sweeping 25% tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, threatened similar tariffs on all Canadian goods, and consistently referred to Trudeau as the governor of the great state of Canada, a deliberate insult that struck at the heart of Canadian sovereignty. The pressure became unbearable, and in January, Trudeau announced his resignation as Liberal Party leader and Prime Minister. Enter Mark Carney, a figure who couldn't be more different from his predecessor. The 60-year-old economist and former central banker had never held elected office, but his resume was impressive by any standard. He had served as governor of the Bank of Canada during the 2008 financial crisis, then as governor of the Bank of England during the Brexit turmoil. His experience navigating international financial storms made him an attractive candidate to lead Canada through its current economic challenges. Carney's rise to power was meteoric. In the Liberal Party leadership race, he won a landslide victory with nearly 86% of the vote, crushing his nearest competitor, former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, who received just over 11,000 votes compared to Carney's 131,674. His victory speech set the tone for what would become a dramatically different approach to dealing with Trump. Donald Trump has put unjustified tariffs on what we build, on what we sell, on how we make a living, Carney declared to rousing applause. He's attacking Canadian families, workers, and businesses, and we cannot let him succeed, and we won't. We didn't ask for this fight, but Canadians are always ready when someone else drops the gloves. So the Americans, they should make no mistake. In trade, as in hockey, Canada will win. The impact was immediate. The Liberal Party, which had been trailing the Conservatives by more than 20 points in the polls under Trudeau, suddenly found itself surging. Canadian nationalism, dormant for years, was awakening in response to Trump's perceived disrespect. Analysts describe the political turnaround as having little precedent in Canadian history. Carney was sworn in as Canada's 24th Prime Minister on March 14, 2025, becoming the first Prime Minister born in Canada's territories and the first to have never served in elected office. His first act was to scrap the unpopular consumer carbon tax, a move that further boosted his popularity. He then called a snap election for April 28th, betting that Canadian anger at Trump would translate into electoral success. The gamble paid off spectacularly. Despite starting his political career just weeks earlier, Carney led the Liberals to victory, winning 169 seats, just 3 short of a majority government. More remarkably, his Conservative opponent, Pierre Poilievre, who had led in the polls for over a year, was voted out of his own seat. It was one of the most dramatic electoral turnarounds in Canadian political history. But perhaps even more significant than Carney's electoral success was how he managed to completely reset the tone of Canada-US relations. Where Trudeau had often appeared frustrated and defensive when dealing with Trump's provocations, Carney adopted a strategy of confident defiance mixed with diplomatic professionalism. The approach seemed to earn Trump's grudging respect. "We have great love for each other," Trump said during an Oval Office meeting with Carney earlier this month, calling him a world-class negotiator. It was a stark contrast to Trump's treatment of Trudeau, whom he had consistently mocked and belittled. The relationship became so warm that Trump began referring to Carney as president rather than prime minister, a mistake that would lead to the hot mic moment that has everyone talking. The Gaza Peace Summit in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, was meant to celebrate a historic breakthrough, the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas that Trump's administration had brokered. World leaders gathered to witness the signing of what Trump called a momentous breakthrough, with Israeli hostages finally being released after more than 2 years in captivity.
Thanks for joining us. It's been a day of celebration for families in the Middle East. All 20 living hostages held by Hamas and hundreds of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel walked free Monday as part of a ceasefire, pausing 2 years of war that decimated the Gaza Strip and killed tens of thousands of Palestinians. Hamas also said Monday it will hand over the bodies of 4 of the 28 deceased captives, though it was not immediately clear when the rest would be released. Israel said it freed more than 1,900 Palestinian prisoners as part of the Gaza ceasefire deal. For 2 Israeli families, it's a day they've dreamt of, but also a day they knew that might not ever come. Families of released hostages, Eaton Horn and Omri Miran, described moments since loved ones returned.
He said that the last few months since the deal collapsed and Israel went back into fighting was harder. There was almost less food or not so much food. He lost a lot of weight, more than 40% of his body weight. He's just learning now about what happened in Israel on October 7th. And friends he knew that were murdered, and he had no clue how many people were kidnapped on that day.
Finally, he could embrace Ronnie and Alma, he could play with them, he could feel like he's a father again, and they could feel like they have a father figure in the household. Our focus now is healing as a family, protecting Omri, but also we're going to keep the fight.
The emotional scenes of families reuniting and the end of a conflict that had devastated the region made this a diplomatic victory for Tikor and he was clearly in a celebratory mood as he greeted the assembled leaders. During his speech, Trump thanked various countries for their attendance, including Canada. The president called and he wanted to know if it's worthwhile, Trump said, referring to Carney's decision to attend the summit. The slip of the tongue, calling Carney president instead of prime minister, might have gone unnoticed if not for what happened next. After dismissing the press and thinking the microphones were off, Carney approached Trump with a grin.
Leaders, it's funny, Trump at the beginning said, I'm not going to take too much time, all these leaders standing behind me, I don't want you to stand too long. And then he gave a really long speech. And as part of it, he's saying, oh, this leader's here and thank you for this, and this leader's here and thank you for that. And he calls out Kennedy, calls out Mark Carney, but he refers to him as president, not prime minister. He calls him president
Carney
from the stage. And so at the end of it, while the mic's still hot, after Trump had said, thank you, we're done, can the media please leave, Carney walks up to him and says, thanks for upgrading me to president. Now, for anyone who's going to get offended at that, I'm sorry, don't get offended. A president always outranks a prime minister. Even in countries that have both a president and a prime minister, the president is higher, such as you can look to Ireland, you can look to Israel, you can look to many different republics that have a prime minister and a president. The president is higher, often symbolic, much like our governor general. So he says, thank you for upgrading me to president. And they have a laugh about it. And then Trump leans in, says something to him. It's hard to hear, but the audio appears to say, at least I didn't call you governor. And then he slaps Carney on the shoulder and they have a laugh.
I'm glad you upgraded me to president, the Canadian leader quipped, clearly enjoying the moment. Trump's response was pure gold. At least I didn't say governor, he replied while playfully slapping Carney's arm and covering his mouth with his other hand, as if he had just delivered a secret burn. The exchange was caught on camera and quickly went viral on social media. The reference to governor was unmistakable. It was Trump's favorite insult for Trudeau, part of his running joke about making Canada the 51st state. By acknowledging that he could have used that term but chose not to, Trump was simultaneously taking a shot at the former prime minister while showing respect for the current one. The moment perfectly encapsulated the dramatic shift in Canada-US relations. Under Trudeau, Trump had been openly hostile and dismissive. He had written on Truth Social, It was a pleasure to have dinner the other night with Governor Justin Trudeau of the great state of Canada. The insult was deliberate and cutting, designed to undermine Trudeau's authority and Canadian sovereignty. But with Carney, the dynamic is entirely different. The former central banker's combination of economic expertise, diplomatic experience, and unwavering defense of Canadian interests seems to have earned Trump's respect in a way that Trudeau never could. The fact that Trump now jokes about his verbal slips rather than doubling down on insults shows just how much the relationship has evolved. This transformation didn't happen by accident. Carney's approach to Trump has been carefully calibrated from the beginning. Rather than trying to appease or ignore Trump's provocations, as Trudeau often did, Carney has met them head-on with confident pushback. When Trump imposed tariffs on Canada, in goods, Carney responded with retaliatory tariffs and made it clear that Canada wouldn't back down until Trump showed respect for Canadian sovereignty.
Some weakness in the U.S. economy that is going to change U.S. negotiating position. Our strategy, part of our strategy has been to pursue the best deal for Canada. We have the best trade deal at the moment. 85% of our trade with the United States is tariff-free. We have the lowest average tariff against of any country with the U.S. It's 5.5%. So we're in a good position now with two important caveats. One is your question, what's going to happen with the renegotiation of what they call USMCA? And secondly, some key sectors, steel, autos, aluminium, forest products being the main ones. We'll make it increasingly clear that in certain sectors, particularly, the integration of the Canadian and US and Mexican economies is essential to US competitiveness. So in steel, in autos, as two examples, that the linkages are so tight. They're so tight such that the the US content in Canadian finished automobiles is higher than the average US content in American automobiles. So we make America stronger in these sectors, and our strategy is to make sure that that is as well understood as possible.
Okay, so the prosperity of both countries is at stake. Your language, though, has changed on President Trump since you came to office. Do you remember when you talked about him as a bully that needed to be stood up to? In February, when you were campaigning, we're going to stand up to a bully, we're not going to back down. And yet now you're much more likely to talk in more conciliatory terms. I mean, obviously one is campaigning and one is governing, but perhaps people who wanted you to do the standing.
The new Prime Minister has emphasized how integrated the Canadian and U.S. economies truly are, noting that U.S. content in Canadian automobiles is actually higher than in American cars. He's argued that Canada makes America stronger in key sectors like steel and autos, and his strategy has been to make this interdependence well understood by both American policymakers and the public. The strategy has been remarkably effective. While Trump continues to maintain his tariffs and occasionally hints at his 51st state fantasy, the tone of his interactions with Carney is markedly different. There's a sense of mutual respect between two leaders who understand each other's positions even when they disagree. This shift has had profound implications for Canadian politics. The surge in Canadian nationalism that Carney has tapped into has fundamentally altered the country's political landscape. Polls show that a majority of Canadians now view the United States less favorably than they did under previous administrations, but they also show increased confidence in their own government's ability to stand up to American pressure. The hot mic moment at the Gaza summit has become a symbol of this new dynamic. Social media exploded with reactions, with many Canadians celebrating what they saw as Trump's acknowledgement of their country's new leadership. The fact that Trump made the comment while thinking he was off camera only added to its perceived authenticity. But the moment also reveals something important about Trump's psychology. His decision to joke about the governor comment rather than make it directly suggests that he understands the limits of his relationship with Carney. Unlike with Trudeau, whom he seemed to enjoy humiliating, Trump appears to recognize that Carney won't be pushed around, and that maintaining a working relationship is more important than scoring cheap points. The broader implications extend far beyond Canada-US relations. Carney's success in standing up to Trump while maintaining diplomatic ties has been noticed by other world leaders. His approach offers a potential model for how middle powers can deal with an increasingly assertive United States without sacrificing their sovereignty or interest. So the Gaza summit itself was significant beyond the hot mic moment. The ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas represented a major diplomatic victory for the Trump administration, with the president clearly eager to take credit for ending a conflict that had raged for over 2 years. The fact that world leaders like Carney were willing to attend and lend their support to the agreement showed the continued importance of American leadership in international affairs, even as relationships have become more complicated. For Carney personally, the moment represented another success in his rapid political ascent. In less than a year, he has gone from political outsider to respected world leader, earning the kind of international recognition that took Trudeau years to achieve. His ability to command Trump's respect while maintaining his principles has impressed observers both at home and abroad. The contrast with Trudeau couldn't be starker, where the former prime minister often appeared to be walking on eggshells around Trump, desperately trying to avoid confrontation while protecting Canadian interests. Carney has shown that it's possible to be both firm and diplomatic. His background in international finance has given him the confidence to engage with Trump as an equal rather than as a supplicant. This confidence was evident in Carney's response to the hot mic moment. Rather than being embarrassed by Trump's comment or trying to downplay it, he embraced the humor of the situation while making his own subtle point. By joking about being upgraded to president, Carney showed that he was comfortable with Trump's tendency toward verbal slips while gently correcting the record. The timing of the exchange was particularly significant given the ongoing trade tensions between the two countries. Despite the improved personal relationship between Trump and Carney, substantive disagreements remain. Canada's retaliatory tariffs are still in place, and Trump has threatened to impose even broader tariffs on Canadian goods. The fact that the two leaders can joke together while engaged in a trade war shows the complexity of modern diplomacy. Looking ahead, the hot mic moment may be remembered as a turning point in Canada-US relations. It demonstrated that Carney has successfully navigated the challenge of dealing with Trump, earning his respect without compromising Canadian sovereignty. This achievement has implications not just for bilateral relations, but for Carney's domestic political standing and Canada's role on the world stage. The moment also highlights the importance of personal chemistry in international relations. While policy differences and economic interests ultimately drive diplomatic relationships, the personal dynamics between leaders can significantly influence how those relationships develop. Carney's ability to connect with Trump while maintaining his principles has opened up possibilities that seemed impossible under Trudeau. As the video of the exchange continues to circulate and generate commentary, it serves as a reminder of how quickly political fortunes can change. Less than a year ago, Canada seemed to be on the defensive against American pressure, with Trudeau struggling to maintain his authority in the face of Trump's provocations. Today, with Carney at the helm, Canada appears to have found its footing, projecting confidence and strength while maintaining important relationships. The hot mic moment at the Gaza summit will likely be remembered as a perfect encapsulation of this transformation. A moment when Trump's attempt at humor revealed the new reality of Canada-US relations and Carney's successful strategy of confident diplomacy. In the complex world of international politics, sometimes the most revealing moments happen when leaders think no one is watching.